Like most congregations, the rural Southern Methodist church in which I was reared had its favorite hymns, the ones sung most frequently and most fervently. But as I grew older, the sentiments of one hymn began to bother me. It's "In the Garden." Perhaps you know it. The refrain goes like this: "He walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known." The "he," for those of you unfamiliar with the lyric, is Jesus. As an expression of personal piety, this hymn remains a classic example of a popular genre. But as a statement of theology, it's pure heresy. None other has ever known? Come on. The notion that the joy of relationship with God is mine alone, a joy none other has ever known, it's repugnant. The narrowness of faith represented in that text is not worthy of song. It's a sin to be confessed, repudiated, and repented. And it's been around for a long, long time. In the first letter of Paul to the Corinthians, we find another community with a similarly limited notion of faith. Paul is disturbed about divisions of the congregation meeting in the home of Chloe. Quarrels have broken out among them, and they've fractured into partisan cliques. Some claim loyalty to Paul. Others claim allegiance to Cephas, another name for Peter. Even those who claim to be of Christ have made themselves a party of that faith, making them guilty of the same petty factionalism. Faith in God, trust of God, has been supplanted by personalized teachings or principles. And when faith in one universal God shifts instead to a faith in principles, in a world of different, competing principles and personalities, we move from trust to defense. It happened in Corinth, and it continues today. Whether we live by a particular denominational identification, or social agenda, or political platform, we take pride in these distinctions, and we express that pride in many ways. We can be haughty in a smug superiority that trusts mine is the better way, even the only way. We can be disdainful of those who follow a different course from our own. And we spend the better part of our energy and evangel justifying to ourselves and to others the rightness of our own particular claims. Present conflicts should draw us with particular interest towards Paul's amazing statement that Jesus did not send him to baptize, but to proclaim the gospel. Did Paul misstep in that statement that sounds suspiciously heretical and certainly anti-establishment? Or does Paul tell us something about the mission of the apostolic church, the ministry to which we're each called and that we have often conveniently ignored? Is Paul contradicting the commission of Jesus to go into all the world and baptize in the name of the Trinitarian God? Or is Paul revealing something of the Christian gospel that we need badly to recover? That command of Jesus to baptize in the name of the Trinity, found only in Matthew, is a widely disputed text. And on the basis of Paul's statement, I'm persuaded we must continue to question the authenticity of that command in favor of Paul's more inclusive understanding. I find it increasingly untenable to promote baptism as a sacrament of division that cuts through the human family and divides us into a band of insiders, which of course creates an opposing band of outsiders. The future of our world, the future of our nation, the future of all people rests upon our ability to move beyond the divisions behind which we align ourselves. When Paul says that his ministry and ours is not to baptize but to proclaim the gospel, and to do it without the language of worldly wisdom, he's telling us that division, argument, and debate are not the way of Christ. Parceling God's family into parties marked Christian and non-Christian, gay and straight, male and female, liberal and conservative, whatever divisions you choose, parceling the human family into pieces is un-Christ-like. It is anti-Christ. And we have only to turn, ironically, to Matthew. In our gospel reading, we find Jesus at the beginning of his ministry. John the Baptist has been arrested and is in prison. Jesus is now in, quote, the land beyond the Jordan, end quote, known in the time of Jesus as, quote, heathen Galilee, end quote. Neither Jewish Galilee nor Christian Galilee. It was heathen Galilee. And it was there that Jesus began his ministry. Moreover, the ministry he practiced was highly unusual, to say the least. There in heathen Galilee, he did not enlist rabbinical scholars or learned theologians. The first people he called out of heathen Galilee into his service were fishermen of indeterminate religious faith. Jesus was a layman, calling other laymen into a service of proclamation in the midst of heathen territory and outside the formal structures of the established religious communities of his day. He did not examine them for their principles. He called them and he loved them for the people they were, even when they disappointed and ultimately betrayed him. We have so homogenized and institutionalized Jesus and his ministry that we lose sight of this incredible uniqueness. The gospel he proclaimed was simple and straightforward, dependent upon neither theological premise nor creedal confession. The kingdom or realm of God, he said, is now and belongs always to all people, and it is realized not by intellectual argumentation, but by faithful action. Membership in the kingdom isn't signified by sacrament, it is signified by service. There is no evidence Jesus ever baptized anyone. nor ever identified them by his name. The only name for him was the name of God, who had created all and to whom all belonged forever. We can't pretend that we walk alone with God, or that God is on our side alone. We can't claim any special gifts or see ourselves as superior to those who might differ from us, even those who stand in opposition, even those plotting our destruction. We must distinguish between a healthy self-respect to which each of us is entitled, that assists us in integrating ourselves into larger society of which we're a part. We must distinguish between that healthy self-respect and the prideful arrogance that separates us from one another and sets us apart from society in a self-imposed, sanctified segregation. Our life and our gospel consists not in separating ourselves and segregating ourselves in some secret garden sequestered with Jesus. Our life and our gospel consist in assuming our place in this world, simply living as the family of God we claim to be amongst all the other members of the family of God. When we find the boldness and bravery to do just that, our song will be far more than a cozy duet. Perhaps we'll open ourselves to everything and everyone sharing that garden with us, and then join a robust, resonant chorus of many harmonies emanating from all that God has made, even the stones themselves, seen and unseen, singing a much more ancient and far wiser hymn. Glorify the Lord, all you works of the Lord, praise him and highly exalt him forever. Amen.